Oh, this is gonna be special.
It's gonna be real special.
I can just feel it now.
Welcome to Victory or Death, the podcast for content creators. I'm your host, Elijah MacDougall, and this is my co-host, Dan Doran.
Hello.
How you doing today, man?
I am doing swell. Some of you might know or might have recognized that I have not made anything new over this past maybe month, feels like. I've been packing and moving and getting used to a new job, and life's gotten very busy.
Yeah, how far did you move?
Well, I moved 4.5 hours away from where I was living with my parents. Now I'm on my own up here in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
I was very excited to learn that you were coming to Wisconsin, but I was less excited to find out that you were still somehow going to be further away from me than you were before.
You know, it was so good to see everybody in Milwaukee or Waukesha, wherever we were. That was a lot of fun. What do you remember? What burger joint we went to?
Sobelman's.
Sobelman's.
Yeah, a really good burger place.
That was good.
Yeah, they're famous for their Bloody Marys. If anyone is interested in checking them out.
So that was great. That was great. But I have sort of, I don't know. I'm even worried about like my interests. I feel like I'm not as interested in playing Elder Scrolls Online, which has sort of rattled me. I was playing that a bunch as I was packing and getting ready to move.
Mhm.
And now that I'm up here, I just feel like I've lost some of the fire, the passion to play, you know? It's weird.
I think a lot of that is kind of like using things that we love for stress management. I remember in college, I was a big Destiny 1 player. And whenever things got down to the wire, I was like, I'm going to play some Destiny. And I'm going to, really just let my anxiety wash away. And then next thing I know, it's back as soon as I'm done playing. But after college, I kind of lost interest for a bit. So yeah, I can kind of jive with that. I also noticed that you haven't been able to play with friends as much. So it could be the social element is also making it less fun for you.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a big thing because that's really where I'm at with that game. Is that I want to play with friends, and if we can't do stuff together, it's just sometimes it's harder to get into a group of folks that either are fun to play with or can accomplish some of the harder content. I mean, I was just with a group where we started a veteran dungeon, and we weren't able to get through it. It was a real bummer. And this is like an hour and a half in trying to get through this thing, and it's just getting to the point where I'm thinking, yeah, this isn't going to happen. I've got to get up early tomorrow. I can't stay up and do this.
Yeah, real life is really funny that way. Because I play similar types of games as you do, just different games. I have, stuff where we'll go do like that kind of like end game challenging content. And, I'll put a random group together and we'll get like 2/3 of the way through it. And then we just crash and burn because the communication is poor or like one or two people are not pulling their weight. And it's hard to do when you're with people that you're not super close to. And, that frustration kind of sets in and you're like, oh, you know what? Real life is calling. The immersion's broken. Boom.
Yeah. And then what was supposed to be stress relief ends up being like a extra stressor.
Yeah.
So
not unlike what we were wanting to talk about today. Trying to manage creative pursuits in a full-time realm of adulthood when you have to work 40 hours a week or more, and you have to find time to rest, take care of yourself, and also, and do the things you enjoy doing, whether that's relaxing or creating on top of all of that.
Right. exactly. Especially, when I come home, I'm like, I barely wanna even cook for myself. And then after that, I barely wanna stay up and watch a TV show, let alone, like, sit down at the computer, hunker down, I do research maybe for a video, write a script, or record a voiceover.
Mhm.
It's like, man, this is tough.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: do you think that that's because like so much of your mental energy is being rediverted to your full time job, or is it just that like it's not so much energy, but like your job is just taking precedence, and now that you have something to really pour yourself into that isn't creative?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it, and I think part of it is that I'm actually doing something that I'm passionate
Mhm.
about, which is not always the case. I mean, prior to this, I was a full-time student, and, I like learning, but I was not passionate about every
Mhm.
subject that I was learning about. So I feel like I had maybe like extra passion to spend on activities or thinking about stuff, creating things. But now I think I mean, I think I am finding fulfillment at work.
Mhm.
And I think that's actually part of the reason why I don't have as much drive right now to create stuff in my free time.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think especially because you're doing that job that you've been wanting to do and what you went to school for, it makes sense. If it's, using some of those passion juices, and I because I know you well enough, I know that like you're creatively bent, but you're also really good at digging in with people. And I think that your particular job lets you do that really well. And so all of that gets diverted into your time with people, learning this new job that you're in, and getting used to the new environment. And it's a lot different from that career school mindset.
But before we move on, how about you? I mean, how do you feel? What would you say the challenge is, and where is it coming from?
Yeah, so I think on my end, we were just talking about this before. I've got some, health stuff going on right now that I won't get into for the sake of the
Okay,
listeners,
sure.
but I've got some health stuff going
Yeah.
on. My full time job that I am working is a contract job. So it's in my field, and it's rewarding both in terms of being able to do something in my field and be paid well for it. But it's not full time. I mean, it is full time, but it's not permanent. And so with the, health related stressors and the knowledge that my contract job is kind of coming to a close, that can affect my creative juices in a way that's like, I need to create. But sometimes the stuff that I've been doing for creative fulfillment has felt more like work because it is. I mean, it is naturally a harder work thing. So I've been trying to figure out how I can still get those feelings, but not stress myself too much. You
Mhm.
know, I think it's important to not sacrifice for the thing that you want to do, but don't suffer for the thing that you want to do. So if you need to take a week off, if you can afford to take a week off, you should. Uh, in your case, with you getting your new job and everything, if you needed to take a month off from your YouTube channel, A, because there's not news, or, B, because you need to get used to a new routine. You need to get to know the people that you're working with and the people you're serving. Totally makes sense. And you should do it. And in the case of on my side, I do want to keep creating. And so part of that is trying to figure out, can I, turn some of that stress and use that as the sacrifice for the creative stuff. Spending 5 less minutes, of my day stressing out about something and using that time to let it drive me towards being creative is probably a much better use of my energy and time than being all gloomy and I don't have a job lined up yet for November, and why aren't people looking at my resume, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So yeah, it's been interesting. Uh, I've wanted to be creating more, but I knew that this past month was going to be really busy. I had some weddings to go to, some traveling to do. And so I got, a couple episodes recorded right after I moved so that I could, put up content. So like this is the freshest episode that I've had in a month. And I've been feeling pretty refreshed because I've been kind of storing up the in front of the microphone juices for about a month now.
Yeah, I really appreciated what you said, that distinction between sacrifice and suffering. I thought that was good. Did you pick that up anywhere, or did you come up with that
I
yourself?
definitely picked it up from somewhere, but just it
Okay,
actually
okay.
internalized it the other day. I was walking to my car when I was leaving work, and it kind of hit me. I'm like, yeah, no, that totally makes a lot of sense. Like that's why people get burnt out. It's because they start to like suffer for the thing that they want to do. You kind of get that starving
Yeah.
artist complex, or like whatever the version would be if you're not an artist. I picked it up from Gary Vaynerchuk.
Mm, he's a brilliant man. Yeah, but well, that's helpful because I feel like I've sort of been beating myself up about not creating stuff,
Mhm.
which doesn't actually help in the long run to motivate myself to create anything. That's why when you ask me, uh, okay, I know you've had a hard time scheduling for your YouTube channel. Do you think we should, still do this podcast tonight, or would you rather spend that time working on YouTube stuff? And I thought, no, I mean, you do the editing on this in post after we record, and it's a little bit of an easier creative venture for me to engage
Mhm.
in. So I thought, I just need to do this to actually be engaged in something creative
Mhm.
again, hopefully to, create sort of the snowball effect. That's what I'm hoping,
Yeah,
that this will be the start of a small snowball that will, grow into hopefully another YouTube video that I'd be motivated again to pick it back up.
yeah, and that's really interesting that you brought up that snowball effect because when before this whole thing started, I had done this Power Rangers thing that I've talked about before, and I'm actually going to get to talk about it on another podcast, which would be really fun. Um,
Cool.
but anyway, doing that like became my snowball for all of this. Uh, it just I needed to like really finish something that I felt was within reach, but like a stretch of what I would normally do, and that's what led me to start thinking about doing a podcast and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, finding those things that you can snowball are really good. And I think the last person I interviewed for my last episode of interview, her name was Zena Ewell, and she's an author, self-published author. She's got about I think like 8 books. Anyway,
Very cool.
she started writing again because she realized that she needed to start that snowball and started a fan fiction, which she was embarrassed about. But, you know, people kind of can badmouth fan fiction for not being like real writing or something. But if you're using that creative energy in a way that's productive, it will start that snowball effect, especially if you have felt
Mhm.
rewarded from it. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's totally a good way to look at something like this, where you don't have to put excessive energy into the end product. Like you show up, you do the thing, you think and share your experience, you share your voice, so then you leave. Snowball started.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping. It's just, I think I'm sort of running up against the wall of the fact that content creation is hard.
Yeah.
It takes effort.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's hard because I think in your case, like you're really having to like kind of like scrape up ideas because your content area is currently a little dried up.
Yeah, that's true.
So like you're doing good stuff, but you don't have more to talk about because Ubisoft hasn't dropped more info for you to really talk about. I mean,
Yeah,
there's whole
yeah.
channels on YouTube that are dedicated to speculation of games that aren't even out yet. and some games that have even less information than what you have working with, and they'll pick up on like the tiniest little thread, even if it's a like Reddit rumor, and then make a video about it.
Right.
And that's fine if they're getting the views and it's working for them. That's cool. But like you want to provide really substantial content for people, even if it's in a 5-minute video. That takes time and
Mhm.
energy, and it also takes information. It takes, playing a game that's a different game to kind of analyze the structure. And yeah, if it's a short video, that's good. But if you don't have anything substantial to work with, it gets a little tiring. So I can see how like you're priming yourself to already have a backlog of content for people when you do get more news, and inevitably Beyond Good and Evil 2 gets its social media traction and gets that hype machine rolling, and you'll be all set for people. But until then, you're
Yeah.
like kind of really burning the reserves to keep it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only folks I think that are coming my way are more sort of hardcore fans or people sort of on the
Yeah.
fringes uh, that are looking for the new thing way before it's out. And so I have a different audience right now, I think, than I will have closer to release.
Yeah. Do they have an official release date yet or no?
No, no. But something tells me that it might not even come out on current gen
Hmm.
consoles. I was just watching a conference where some of the developers were at this conference giving a talk about some of the tools that they're using to create the artwork for the game, going back and forth between concept and 3D modeling. And there was something in there about saying, they can do so much now because of the new generation
Hmm.
of consoles. And I feel like that was a slip.
Oh, not even a slip,
I
because I think earlier this week Sony announced that the PS5 was coming out on holiday 2020.
That's right. Yeah,
So
I just heard about that.
yeah, I think you'll probably see it
Well,
next year sometime or a little bit after.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, new consoles are coming. It's obvious. Nobody's going to be surprised by it, but um yeah, I don't think this game is going to I don't think Beyond Good and Evil 2 is going to show up on current generation systems.
Yeah, I there would be it'd be like what Naughty Dog did with The Last of Us, where they just dropped it at the very end of the PlayStation 3 life cycle. Like it was literally the last AAA game by Sony to come out on PS3. And it pushed that little machine
Yeah.
so hard.
Right, right. Yeah.
Like at that point it was like
Well,
a 6, 7 year old console. Like it was old.
yep, you're just juicing the hardware for everything that you can get out of
Oh
it.
yeah. Well, I've been thinking with after you mentioned that you're having a hard time creating and stuff, while you have the content lull, I mean, you're still, playing games a little bit. I mean, what would you think about, doing either reviews or doing some, analysis work that's specifically about the game you're playing, not just like how this thing could compare to BG&E, or what, Beyond Good and Evil 2 could learn from looking at this other game. Uh, yeah. What would you think about that?
That is a good question, and I think it brings out a good response in me. So the thing why I don't do that is
Hmm.
because I'm worried that my interest, the web of interest that I have, is not enough to retain an audience.
Hmm.
That's what I'm worried about. Like, okay, one month I'm playing Elder Scrolls Online, the next month I'm playing Dragon's Dogma. Uh, I'm interested about the new Zelda game on Switch. Is there enough of a connection between all of those things to actually keep people interested?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No, I mean that's that's really that I
That's
think
the question.
that's the main reason why I haven't done that because I I doubt personally myself Like,
Mm.
that's enough to retain an audience.
Well, okay, keep in mind that there's hundreds, and I mean hundreds, well, maybe not hundreds, maybe 100 Destiny YouTubers, and there's about 30, you know, like Destiny YouTubers that have a decent amount of traction, maybe less than that.
Mhm.
And yeah, you can watch those particular YouTubers because they're playing the game you like, which I do. But I watch the ones that I watch the most often because I appreciate the views they bring to the table or the entertainment value that they bring to the table. So, like, one guy's name is Dado. He does like raid guides for Destiny. He does, you know, thoughts and impressions about the expansions that drop. He does,
Mhm.
doesn't do anything particularly academic, and he's primarily a streamer. But he spends a good chunk of time actually digging in, giving honest feedback to Bungie, especially if they've messed up. And he'll just put it straight, be like, "This is crap," or like, "This is really good, guys, good job." And
Yeah.
they listened to him. They had him actually interview some of the people that were working on the Shadowkeep expansion for Destiny 2.
Oh,
And
okay.
like, you got to sit down and interview them live on Twitch, which was really cool.
That is so cool.
Then there's guys like TH3 Jez, and he's just for the funnies. I was actually writing like a beginner's guide for Destiny 2 the other day for some guy on Twitter who's like, "I'm giving up on this game because I don't remember what to do, and they don't tell me how to
Oh,
do
no.
anything." And I was like, "I'll write you up a guide." And he's like, "Well, I would play it again if you did that." And I was like, "Okay, then I'll do it."
Wow.
So I did. It's like 5 pages, whatever. But at the end, I went
Jeez.
and listed a bunch of, YouTubers, which is like a page worth of YouTubers. Um, and I had them, broken up by like weapon reviews, thoughtful content, news, lore, because Destiny is just filled with like lore and story stuff. And then the last one
Sure.
was like funnies. And I listed TH3 Jez and another guy. I'm like, these two are like your funny Disney YouTubers. And so I watch all those different people for their personality and the way that they present their content. So I think if you are a very smart guy. I mean, you got a master's degree. Like, you don't do that by sleeping
Wow.
through class. Um, but like, I think you could offer a lot in the realm of, analyzing a game or even just relaying your overall play experience, even if it ends up being something a little bit, cut back, like not super heady. Because I think a lot of your gut instincts are really interesting to hear. Um, like when when we were talking about Sekiro, and you're like, it's really hard. Like, you hear people who are actually playing the game and reviewing it, and they're like, it kicks my butt, but it's awesome. And you're just like, it's just hard, guys. Like, you don't need to, you don't need to, sugarcoat it. It's hard, and
Yeah, yeah.
it makes it hard to play. But I still beat it or got close to beating it. It's that kind of stuff that if you did something more, either more relaxed or approaching the games professor, games is lit kind of style thing, you could probably cut
Mhm.
out a pretty decent niche for yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate that encouragement because that brought to the surface, I think, something that I probably wasn't able to say or wasn't willing to say, uh, which is good, which is that, I mean, it's just basically self-doubt. So I'm gonna cherish that nugget that you just gave me,
I
and
mean,
we'll see what happens.
if you want someone to do it with you,
Oh,
I might be down for
interesting.
that. Um,
Oh, this is going on live. This is exciting.
yeah, yeah, this is going on the record.
Yeah.
Because even before I wrote the Power Rangers thing, even before I started the podcast, I hit a point when I was, stocking shelves at an alcohol company
Right.
where I finally was like, man, all I do is I go home and play video games and hang out with my wonderful wife. I should be doing something with that. Like, it was that point where like the journalism bug kind of hit me again, and then I
Mhm.
didn't do anything with it. But my idea was that I was going to
Uh,
start. video games, start writing reviews, and providing some thoughts on it. Because like I
Yeah.
read the GameSpot, the IGN, and like I know that
Mhm.
those people know how to write, like they're professional writers, but they don't have the time to really put really thoughtful content out there. Mainly because like if the company hasn't paid for them to play the game or hasn't, gotten a hold of them in some way, has shaped their opinion, whether or not it was like inviting them to an event or whatever, the
Mhm.
reviews tend to be less glowing, or like things that they wouldn't give a pass on another game, they give a pass on a AAA game because of all the pomp and
Right.
circumstance that comes with them. So like there's a ton of video game reviewers, and I mean a lot. But if we're
Yeah.
using the like our personality is the thing that we're selling and the quality of the content is the thing that we're selling, it would follow that you'd be able to find a base even though there's other people who do it and there's other people who have more subscribers. Um, so anyway, yeah, it's just a thought. I guess that falls in the vein of the reason I've been thinking about this. And I did not mean to like set you up to be like, hey, do this thing, and then I dunked on you.
Yeah.
Because I realized that that's how that felt.
No, no, no. Didn't feel that way.
Just before we transition to actually talking about the stuff that I was doing, I was going to bring up that I put out an inquiry to a company called Spearhead Games, and they made a few.
Okay.
They made a few video games. I think they're a Canadian company.
They've made a
Um,
few video games.
yes, a few.
Okay.
They
Oh,
made a game
cool.
called Omen Sight, which is a very, very, very good branching story game. Basically, you play as a time traveling entity that is trying to stop the world from ending.
Okay.
But you can only go back to about a couple hours before the world ends. So you're trying to like jump between all these different characters and talk to the right people and help the right people to figure out what happened to make the world end. It's really cool. They had some other
Interesting.
games that had a similar kind of branching storyline, but I reached out to them because I saw on Twitter that they were celebrating the anniversary of the game. I said, "Hey, I'm a podcaster. Would it be cool if I interviewed one of your artists or one of your writers?" And so I got in contact
Hey.
with them, and I sent the proposal over. So we'll see if
Yeah.
they accept it or not. But uh, that got me thinking. I'm like, oh man, I could start interviewing people from like indie game companies, and learning about like basically still doing interview, but like have some episodes that are dedicated to that, which ends up kind of going back to something that I really wanted to do early in college when I wanted to switch over to being a journalism major. Was I wanted to become a video game journalist, and then I didn't do it
Yeah.
because at that point I got it in my head that I was going to be a career academic, or that I could be a career academic, and so
Okay.
I poured a lot of time into learning a particular genre of literature because I felt that it was neglected in the academic space. And then I had some friends who were like, academia is kind of bad right now. And so I've let myself get really influenced by like other people's opinions and the things that I'm nervous about. And so all of this has just kind of been me just leaning into like what I want to do and just giving it a shot.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
what else am I going to do?
Yeah. The fear and the self-doubt though is like those are major hurdles that
Yeah.
are tough to get over. The cool thing about what you're sharing though is that you could still do like everything that we've talked about so far. I'm just thinking about sort of the shirt design and the other type of graphic design things I think that you were sort of dreaming of
Yep.
could still happen. It just with the conversation partners being those indie game developers, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you could make designs, that would highlight indie game developers, and it makes me think of Shirt Punch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think you introduced me to
I
Shirt Punch.
totally did. I was just going to be like, I think
Yeah.
I told you about Shirt Punch. It was that Zelda T-shirt, and then you got the same Zelda that I did. Oh no, no, no! You got it. Oh, did you get it after me? It was the green one.
Yeah, the green Hero Forever with
Yeah, I
the
think I ended up getting
everything.
that shirt in a grab bag later.
Yeah. I forgot that you had showed me that thing.
Yeah, because I
Such a
think I got.
cool business. Anyway,
But yeah, it would be similar probably to that. I mean, less like you've got 24 hours to buy this shirt, but you know.
right. Yeah, yeah. But like you could do crossovers that no one else is doing,
Oh,
with
exactly.
these indie developers, you would have people that are, really passionate. I feel like indie gamers are really passionate about indie games. I mean, how else is there such a huge market for indie developers to be making, so many games? Anyway,
Yeah.
it just made me think of, there's a real possibility out there for that.
Yeah. So I'm really hoping that this pans out. Because I went on vacation with, well, not really vacation. I went to a wedding with my wife, and we were talking at a coffee shop, and I was like, I'm like, I really like what I've been doing with these podcasts, but like I want to do something different after the season ends. And then we ended up getting this conversation about how like I'm probably just getting nervous and getting um, fearful and being impatient because it's not going the way that I had hoped, and like, all those things kind of dissecting the ration, like the motivations, the rationale. And I still want to make some changes to the show down the line, but it was like you're biting off more projects than you can chew, as you tend to
Mm,
do. Accepting that criticism, I was like, how can I just keep doing what I'm doing now and not start 4 more podcasts for other things that I'm interested in?
right.
Which is
Oh
like, I
my
literally have
goodness.
a journal with other podcast ideas, and I'm like, I want to do all of these. I haven't even gotten these, interview and Victory Death off the ground far enough to like start splitting my time even more. So,
Right.
if I can, let interview evolve into interviewing indie game people and, book writers, then cool. Awesome. That's exactly what I had hoped it would be and more. And,
Hmm.
Victor Death, I have things that I want to change about it, like thinking about doing a like more roundtable style thing. So finding some consistent content creators and tackling topics from, 5 different perspectives or whatever. Um, which I think would be really cool. But I also like these conversations because they're like, really edifying for us and edifying for the 20-25 people who tend to listen to the episodes, you
Hmm.
know. So,
Yeah, that's so I've sort of felt like your approach to content creation has been heavily shaped by the future.
mhm.
And for people listening, not just the future in general, but the future, what would you call them?
They're a offshoot of an award-winning design firm that is dedicated to YouTube content.
Yeah, and sort of helping designers create stuff and be better at business, right?
Yep.
Uh, so I guess in trying to press you a little bit,
Mhm.
what would you say makes what we're doing here different than what is found on the future?
um, I think what we're doing here is a little bit more documentative, or it's at least geared towards documenting
Mhm.
and just like dissecting our experiences. I think because like neither of us are currently, highly paid or really famous content creators, like we're not like showing the secret to how we did it when we made it and we're big bad content creators. It's like, yeah, we're just, we're 2 guys who know each other really well. We have good charisma. We like the same stuff. Let's talk about it. With the intent of letting those conversations influence, younger listeners who are creative, who are like, oh, well, I hadn't thought about that. Or, oh, I didn't realize I could do something like this way, and get people thinking. The
Mhm.
future is more dedicated to like, we are an award winning company. And if you want to get high paying design jobs, you better do it like this.
Right. Yeah.
It's a big difference. We're like, they're playing in the upper echelon, and we're like Joe Schmo. Um,
Well, but so I think that Joe Schmo-ish element is exactly like what we have to offer though. Like that's why people would listen to us because we're just simply being honest with our experience.
Mhm. We have
It's not
nothing to
like
lose.
we don't have, wisdom necessarily about content creation or success in creating content for YouTube or anything like that. That's not exactly what we have to offer. But we do have an honest and genuine experience to offer to our listeners.
Yeah.
And I think that's really worthwhile. I mean, I think that's why people would actually listen to us.
I suspect that is why people listen to us. Um, I've been getting I haven't been getting comments about this show as much. Um, but the people that I have done guest spots with this show, OK Khalid, and the Sweating the Small Stuff show, they've both been really like, hey, dude, like you're really good at interviewing. You're really good at this stuff. Keep doing it. Even if you don't have a lot of listeners right now. Um, you know, Cameron, who is the host of Sweating the Small Stuff, he's like 35 episodes in, like he's on fire. Like he's putting out 2 episodes a week almost, it feels like.
Wow. Wow.
Um, Granted they're shorter, but still he's just really on putting stuff out. And like OK Khalid has 2 podcasts going, 2 like divergent podcasts. He's got one where he sits
Really?
down with his buddies and it's called The Social Club, and like he sits down with his friends and they shoot the breeze and stuff, but like they talk about millennial problems and they kind of get like the 5 different viewpoints. And his other one's called The Music Lab, and that's where he covers like small time hip hop artists and stuff, and he listens to the albums, he gives critique on the albums, he uses it as a means to expose some of the new artists out there. And it's like he's doing that and he's staying really busy. Like they're both like, dude, yeah, if you keep just grinding this thing out, like it'll turn out well for you.
Yeah.
And the people I've interviewed for interview, anyone that if I've checked in with them after I've talked with them, a lot of the people who have listened to the stuff, who have talked to them directly, have been like, he's a really good interviewer. So like I know that even if this isn't the biggest of deals right now, I think between the two of us, like we're making something pretty decent, which helps me feel like in the end it will be worth it, not just in like the like fulfillment of actually having an edifying conversation with someone, but also just making relatable, genuine content.
Yeah. And I think there's something to, I mean, desiring to make good stuff, but then desiring that it would be known,
Mhm.
and appreciated by others. So I hope we get there.
Yeah, I think so. I think we will. I mean, again, I'll put it on the record. If we wanted to start collaborating on stuff for your YouTube channel, I'd love to help you out. I suspect that with the holidays coming up, it might be a little hard for me to get interviews.
Mm,
Maybe not. But like, if we don't, like, I don't want Victor or Death to just go stale because nothing's happening. So,
right,
because we can only
right.
have so many of these conversations before it's like, yeah, that's the same thing from last week, guys.
Yeah, yeah. Is it
But
still hard to make content? Yeah.
yes. So I mean, if we
Uh,
changing the angle or like adding an angle, not even changing, but like adding an angle to talk about like um whether that's like writing process or whatever, recording, what it's like to you know write a 15-minute video game review for YouTube, which I've never done before, things like that.
yeah. Oh, okay.
You see what I'm jiving with, though. um
Yeah.
Gotta
Oh,
make
this
the
is
content. We
interesting.
talked about the content.
Yeah, this is interesting. Well, okay. I've got ideas. I've got ideas. A little passion spark, I think, just
Mhm.
ignited in my brain.
Good.
So this has
um
been great.
but yeah, anything else you want to add, Dan, before we close out?
Nope. I'm good.
No, just an emphatic no.
No.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for kind of just doing this nice little relaxed chat. I really enjoyed recording this one. Uh,
Yeah.
Less
I I
structured,
always I
but
always appreciate when you have me on here.
yeah, man. I love having you. I mean, you're like the co-host of the show, so if you're not here, it's just me talking to the wall.
Yeah, and the last time that happened, people started getting concerned, so
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
see you, everybody.